Story of the four skillful brothers. Not often you get stories about four people. It's nearly always three. It's about four brothers. Their father was a very poor man, and when the brothers reached a certain age, the father looked at them and said, "The time has come for you to go out into the world to learn a trade. I cannot keep you any longer." So the brothers each packed his meagre possessions, and they strode out into a fine morning full of optimism. They came to a crossroads, and there four brothers said, "We will each go in a different direction, and in 4 years' time we will meet back here and compare our fortunes." So the brothers set off. The oldest brother, as he walked along the dusty road, met a man who offered him an apprenticeship. And the man said, "I am a thief." And the brother said, I have no wish to learn to steal, for I am an honest man, and thieves end up, more often than not, dangling from the gallows. But the thief said, "I can teach you how to steal in such a way that you will never be caught." I do not, I do not condone this, by the way. I'm not suggesting. I'm sure YouTube have lots of rules about things like this, so you know, yes, there you are. We are not promoting any illegal activities here. So the brother went off and became apprenticed to the thief. The second brother, walking in the opposite direction, met a man who said, "I am a huntsman. You can become my apprentice if you like. I can teach you how to shoot absolutely anything." And the second brother thought that sounded fun, so he went for the huntsman and learned to be an incredible shot. The third brother met a stargazer. Now, I take it from this that what is really meant is an astrologer. But he met a stargazer, for you can learn to use a telescope, you can learn to look up into the night sky, and you can learn to read all the secrets that are hidden in the stars. Fourth brother met a tailor, and he said, "I have no wish to sit cramped all day sewing until my fingers bleed." But the tailor said, "I can teach you how to sew anything to anything." So all four brothers carried on with their apprenticeship. And the thief learnt to take absolutely anything without anyone knowing. The hunter learned to shoot. So I hope he could perhaps bring down a deer before the deer even realised that it was about to die. Stargazer learnt to read the stars. He learnt all sorts of secrets. And the tailor learnt to sew anything to anything, so that he'd sew something as soft as an egg or sew something as hard as steel. So the appointed day came, and the four brothers met back at the crossroads and were so delighted at being reunited that they embraced each other. You can tell this is a German story. The British equivalent of this would be something like, "And the four brothers met, and they were so overwhelmed with emotion at having been reunited after 4 years apart that they shook hands in a heterosexual male bonding kind of way while maintaining an arm's length distance from each other. So the brothers carried on with their journey until they arrived back at their father's humble cottage. And all five of them sat outside under a great tree. And each of the brothers explained to their father what they had learned. And the father, who was a cunning sort of person, said, there is a chaffinch nest in this tree. Tell me, he said to the stargazer, how many eggs are in the nest? And the stargazer took out his telescope and said, there are 5 eggs. I think they're about to hatch. Father said to his son, the thief, can you climb up and steal the eggs? And very softly, the thief climbed up in the tree and took each of the 5 eggs from underneath the mother chaffinch without her even noticing. And he brought all 5 eggs down and placed them on the table, 1 at each corner and the 5th in the middle. And the huntsman, who had guessed what his father intended, took his gun and shot each of the eggs with 1 shot. Apparently there are guns which fire around corners. The youngest son, the tailor, took the needle that his master had given him, which enabled him to sew anything to anything. And he sewed together all the eggs, and he sewed together the baby birds that were inside. And 2 days later, the baby birds hatched out, and each had a red ring around its neck, where the tailor had sewed its head to its body. So the father was presumably quite pleased that all of his sons had learned a trade. And around this time, there was uproar in the kingdom, for the king's daughter had been carried away by a dragon. And the king was promising, of course you've already guessed, haven't you, to whoever brought her back his daughter's hand in marriage. So the 4 brothers set out. And the stargazer took out his telescope and said, I know where she is. She's on a rock in the middle of the sea with the dragon. So the king granted the 4 brothers a ship and a crew, and they set sail across the sea. And when they got close to the rock, the stargazer said, the dragon is asleep with its head in the maiden's lap. That awful sound you can hear is the dragon snoring. So the huntsman said, I cannot shoot the beast without being sure that I won't kill the maiden. It's always a good idea to admit when you've met your match in a task. So the thief landed on the rock and stole the maiden from under the sleeping dragon's head and took her onto the ship. And they were sailing away and thought they had made good their escape when the dragon awoke, flew over the ship, breathing fire, and the huntsman, with 1 single aim, shot the dragon through its heart. But unfortunately, he hadn't really done a risk assessment on this, and the dragon fell and broke the wooden ship into planks, leaving the brothers, the princess and the ship's crew swimming for their lives. But luckily everyone managed to grasp a plank to hang on to, and the tailor very quickly sewed together enough of the planks to make a seaworthy ship once more, and then a little more slowly did some very clever repair work so that you could barely tell that the ship had been broken at all. So they sailed home. And of course the king was overjoyed that his daughter had returned. But no one could decide which brother should marry the princess. So the brothers argued it out between themselves, as of course brothers do. And in the end, the king said, I will divide my kingdom into 4, and you can have a quarter of the kingdom each. So as to whether the princess ever did marry or not, the story doesn't really say. But what the story does say is that the brothers were content with their lot and lived happily till the end of their days. I like to think that they shared a little of their newfound fortune with their father. I'm sure they did. I'm sure you would too. Lovely. It's actually some of the lesser known Brothers Grimm stories that I really like. The idea of maidens, of course, being threatened by dragons, that goes back to, I think, Andromeda in Greek myth, and of course occurs in the Orcadian story. That's from the Orkneys story of Asclepius and the Stoorworm. So there we are. Always beware of dragons. Hope to see you soon.